Hello, everybody. Wow, we have people actually waiting for this one. Woo, boy. All right, so um, I'm here with Tommy and Dave. Tommy and Dave are superstars who managed to take Grey Knights to WCW. They got golden tickets. They're actually good players. I am not. But I am here to guide a conversation as they impart tons of wisdom upon us in this game that we love so much. We were going to spend a lot of time talking about WCW and their matchups and their lists and all of that, but then this detachment hit this morning, and I think that's all out the window. And we're just going to talk about Warpbane. So we're going to bane some warps, and I'm baning some warps with Dave and Tommy. Let's start with Dave. What was your first reaction, like early this morning, about this detachment?
My first reaction was largely, holy shit, I can't believe they've redone this mechanic again. I was thoroughly unimpressed. Yeah, just going through it, I kind of briefly read it and thought, okay, then I have to have purifiers that line up with some. I was like on the edge of my bed reading it and then just threw my phone into the abyss. I was like, I'll read this later. And it was one of those things where I'd read infinite Discord takes from people before I'd actually read the detachment itself. And so by the time I read the detachment, I had this kind of isolated idea of what it was meant to be. And it wasn't until, and I don't know if this was the same for yourself, Tommy, it wasn't until I had time to actually sit with the thing and digest it that I kind of started to play around with ideas. But my first impression of it was just, oh, good, I have to stand on points to even get anything. Great. Can't wait for that to not work.
Yeah, no, I had a very similar reaction to you. Like, so my 18-month-old was decided to get really grumpy at like an ungodly hour in the morning, and so like I had been dealing with that. I hadn't had coffee, and I said, "Oh, I got the detachment." And, like, I completely missed the. I read it, and I completely skipped over the and or part where it was talking about units within your army get the rerolls. I'm like, cool. I'm really looking forward to storm bolters with rerolls to hit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I just like I participated in the droning masses on Discord and Reddit of just like, what is this? And then like started to like chew on it a bit, and I'm like, wow, this thing rips. Like, it's actually got some teeth to it. Like, it seems fun. It's you know, the it seems a bit more like a straightforward playing pattern instead of like, I'm gonna 3D chess you to victory with teleport assault or the teleport detachment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sorry, please, after you.
I took a look at it 4 a.m. I think it hit, like my time. 4 a.m. I was up. I've been dealing with this like sick kid for the last 2 nights and stuff. So like I'm drowsy. I'm like tired. I'm reading it, and I did the same thing like Tommy did. As I scrolled past, I'm like, oh, purifiers get a bunch of rerolls. Oh, these enhancements are like okay, I guess. Wow, 2 of these strats suck. This detachment's garbage. Just kind of went back to sleep, like because when the Death Watch one hit, it was so good. I was like, I'm going live. Fuck it. I ran it. I like made coffee. And I went live because it was so good. But this one, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. It's not even worth going live for. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I had, I would have been that idiot who's now there's like a permanent record of me saying how bad it is and being so amazingly wrong.
Yeah. There's definitely an interesting piece to it, I think, where if you're, as kind of Tommy and Tone there, if you're one of these players who approaches Grey Knights from the sort of passivity and defensive mindset of just, people will come to me and I'll leave, or I'll just live, and then I'll kick them in the nuts, and then they'll be big sad about it. Like, I don't think this detachment's for you. Like, Index Grey Knights is great for you. Go nuts, play that. Don't go near this, because this, you have to go out and engage and play the game, which I don't like, to be clear. I vastly prefer not engaging with you at all. I remember, I think my first reaction also was like scrolling down to the strats and being like, Armor of Contempt, nope. Mists, nope. Close, like, okay, I don't give a shit. I need those. They're my crutches. Help.
Not
Yeah, no,
having miss is rough because like it is legitimately the best stratagem in the game.
no
Well,
sigil either.
Yeah.
segue off of that, actually, right? Because I know originally the idea here was to talk about WCW, so we can do a little double bubble here. I don't know about yourself, Tommy. So what I found at WCW for myself was that I very seldom got to use mists in hostility. Like I often had to put my opponents in a position where they had to make a sort of Sophie's choice. Do they make the bad mists, or do they just give me the good mists and have a free movement phase? And so when you're playing against extremely competent opponents who are acutely aware of mists and the power it presents, but also how to play around it, you very seldom get to use mists. It's more the threat of mists that's scary for people. And there is that little like mortal wound mini mists in this detachment as well, which is equally kind of annoying. I've got to be honest. I don't like it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and like I think that has been competitively like one of the barriers I've been dealing with the index attachment is like people know how to play around it, and it's like it almost feels like you're scamming people out of games when it actually does go the way you want it to, and it's like, well, sorry man, like I'm gonna windmill slam you into the ground now, like but like I definitely agree with you, like with WCW, like I very rarely ever got to use it the way I really would want to, and it was more of a tool to like control the flow of board state more than anything, of like, don't move in this area, i'm gonna do I'm gonna commit war crimes if you move here, like,
Yeah.
right? So um so yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to having a bit more like the big highlight for this new detachment is like having a bit more player agency, and like I get to be dictating what I'm doing and influencing board state a bit more like straightforwardly, compared to what you had to do with the index attachment. So
I'm really glad that you guys brought up the index because like, you know, I think Tommy mentioned this in my Discord, free plug by the way, there's a link down below. Before, but he actually mentioned that like with the upcoming supposed nerf to AOC, you know, where it'll be per activation, not per phase. You know, suddenly it's like, well, we might not care so much that we lost AOC. We are still a 2-up army across the whole board. So like there's that stratagem in the new detachment to get the 4-up invul, but it's like if you're in cover, like you have to be being hit with a substantially high amount of AP to even want to spend that like CP in the first place. So you kind of have an AOC. To Dave's point, you kind of have a miss, but it's like offensive. So it's some interesting stuff. And to that end, I'm gonna switch over and we're gonna look at the detachment. Oh no, and my video is all messed up on your guys' sweet faces. I'm gonna fix that live while you guys talk about it. So Tommy, why don't you lead us through the detachment rule?
sure, I will try to impress you with my child ability to read words good. So I think before we get started, I think one of the really cool things that GW has done with this, just completely outside of the like rule standpoint, is like Grey Knights have undertones of brotherhood, and like they have a confluence of psychers that are working together. And I think having like these linchpin units that are bouncing between your army that can provide more buffs for the rest of the detachment and the rest of the army is kind of a cool idea, and I think it would be something that would be really neat for them to lean into moving forward. Like, you know, there's a purifier detachment that's really aggressive. There's a paladin or terminator detachment that is more defensive. Like that type of thing would be kind of a cool design space for them to continue to explore. But I think I'm pretty happy with what they've done with this so far. So, all right, detachment rule, hallowed ground. Certain areas of the battlefield are within are within your army's hallowed ground as follows. Your deployment zone is always in hallowed ground. The area of the battlefield within 6 inches or more of your Purifier Squad units. Like I said, I didn't read words good. Uh, basically, 6 inches of one or more of your Purifier Squad units, that is considered hallowed ground. And then if you control markers, all the like the majority of the markers in No Man's Land, you get the hallowed ground. That center strip is considered hallowed ground. And then if you control your enemy's deployment zone objective marker, that whole area in the enemy deployment zone counts as being within hallowed ground. What does that get you though? Each time a model in a Grey Knight's unit in your army makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. If the unit is Purifier Squad and or is wholly within your army's hallowed ground, you can reroll the hit roll instead. So what it is essentially the Canoptic Court buff, where if you control your third of the map, or you always get full rerolls to hit if in your own deployment zone. If you control the mid board, you get full rerolls if you're in the mid board. And if you control your enemy's home objective, you get full rerolls if you're shooting from your enemy's deployment zone, which is pretty dang good. Plus, just natively having army-wide reroll hit rolls of 1 is just strong. I think that this army rule, or rather this detachment rule in and of itself, is like they could literally just not print any more stratagems or enhancements or anything like that, and I think it still would have teeth competitively. Just having an entire, like, Space Marines army rule is 1 unit they're shooting at, you get full rerolls. This is just everybody's doing rerolls all the time, and I think one of the things that Grey Knights had a huge problem with Dread Knights specifically, was you get 6 shots. If you miss or spike down on it, it is painful.
Oh.
And I think this solves that problem pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you shoot 6 times, you hit 4 times, they make 2 saves, the thing lives, right? Like,
Yeah, or God forbid they were like, "I'll smoke this," and you were like, "Great, I'll just take my Dread Knight and throw it off the table."
Yeah,
Completely useless at this point.
yep.
So, I think in our various stupors, the problem is we read this too fast.
Yep.
And we said each time a Grey Knight's unit, it's reroll 1. Okay, great. If it's a Purifier, you reroll a hit roll. Like, I completely missed this part here. Yep. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, like, Purifier is great. That's like 700 points on my list, maybe. Like, if I just try to slam as many of them in there as possible, and Crow is another, 90 or something? So,
yep.
I'm like, that sounds awful. Like, let's buff a less than half of my army. But, yeah, once it was pointed out to me that, oh, no. No, sir. It's everybody. If you're in hallowed ground, it's everybody. And it's melee, too. It's not just shooting. So, like, this is oaths, but everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere oaths all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of spooky. I mean, I think the thing that, for me, that takes time to really grasp is, with the index detachment, you are so, or certainly I am. I don't know about yourself, Tommy. I know that you had Dread Knights on your list for WCW, and I had none because I'm not doing that to myself on GW terrain. I'd rather be sort of pushed out of a moving plane. I know for me, I was running kind of 3 big bricks, like 10 Termies, 10 Paladins, 5 Terminators, and I think the first thing that you have to disconnect your brain from when you read this as a Grey Knights player is this is saying, you are going to play MSU and you are going to like it. And it's like, oh shit, okay, I've kind of forgot how to do that. Like, I'm so used to one of my units dying and I just kind of have a panic attack. And instead, this is like, oh no, you're going to have stuff to do things with, right? And I think this really incentivizes you towards rethinking how you're going to design Grey Knights lists. I'm curious, and I'd love feedback on this if anyone has any, but I'm curious how this if this is what it felt like for other people when they got their codexes, you know, you were so used to designing a list some sort of way, and all of a sudden a different way to play comes out, and you're just kind of stuck in. Well, no, this is safe. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bear coming out of
Yeah.
hibernation. Like I don't know, dude. This hole's pretty good. Like I'm not coming out of this hole. This
How do
hole's got
how do I use this detachment with 30 Terminators?
exactly. Yeah, and of course that was my. I guess that was probably Tommy's first thought as well. I imagine is to just take the detachment or the list I just played, slide it over into this detachment, and go, how does it work? And my first reaction was dreadfully like, what? This is horrible. Now I've always been a fan of purifiers in Crow. I think Crow is one of the best models they've made. I love their datasheet. I love the rules. So I was like, oh, cool. This incentivizes me to take purifiers. I've wanted to do that for a long time. Cool. That's the start of the list right there. But as you're building a list, then you're not including Drago. You're not including Terminators. You're not including, you know, Libbies. Like I dropped 2 Libbies straight away. Okay, forget them. You know, we'll put them back in if we have the points, but they're gone for now. And it's treacherous. It's uncharted territory, and you do kind of have to rewire those neurons a little bit. They have to start firing a little bit again, and then you go, okay, there's some connectivity here, and then that does. Oh, okay, and you begin to see things a little bit differently. I think, anyway. I mean, I know for me that my instantaneous thing was like, take all Dread Knights, throw immediately in bin, begin list from there, right? Because I hate Dread Knights. They're like
Yeah,
my least. Oh.
I don't hate Dread Knights. I hate these lists you see where it's like 6 Dread Knights, Strike Squad, 3 Libbies.
Yeah,
And it's like it does well. At least it was, you know, several months ago. And it's like I want like 2, maybe 3 Dread Knights in my list, you know, because it's cool. But like I mostly want to have Grey Knights on the table. You know what I mean? Like actual little Grey Knights. Yeah, right. So unfortunately, once I started realizing the power of this detachment, my first thought was, oh my god, this is just going to make those stupid 6 times Dread Knight lists worse. Because what you do is you take like 3 5-man purifiers, maybe on like one of your Grandmaster Dread Knight, you take one of these enhancements that we're about to go through, which gives Hallowed Ground to 1 unit once per battle. You then drop as many Dread Knights into your purifier's hallowed ground control zone as possible, and you just go to town with full reroll. I'm just like, this is gonna make it all worse. It's so much worse.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. I definitely could. I think one of the things right now that I've become more and more acutely aware of is that the amount of predators in the meta right now that exist for Dread Knights vastly outweigh the amount of predators for 2-up cover, like AOC, MSU. I say AOC, you know, not within this detachment.
Right.
Like I know, Tommy, did you by any chance play into the WTC Team Poland Pira Cup list at WCW? It's the triple Exorcist, triple Castigator, double Immolator.
Yeah,
list.
yeah, that thing.
Scoops Dread Knights for fun by any chance?
Yeah, exactly. That was my first round. It was one of the guys from the French team, and I went second and then started the game with 1 less Dread Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, and the other one was at like 3 wounds. And I'm like, oh, this is how this game's gonna play.
I love indirect fire. What an amazing rule. Yeah, I know. I'm talking about for game design.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying we shouldn't abuse it as well because it's in the game.
Aware secrets.
But
it exists.
All right.
Yeah, so knowing that that's there and like knowing how many things can just scoop a Dread Knight, you know, they don't have feel no pains. They're very susceptible to devs and mortals. I think that I think you are just disincentivized from running that. Certainly, if you're looking to go to an event and do particularly well, if you're looking to go to an event and just kind of cruise the mid tables and be a pain in the arse, take 6 Dread Knights and 3 Purifiers. Go bananas. You'll win some games and you'll lose some games, and I'm sure people will hate you. But if you're like really looking to kind of to crunch into this index, I really don't think that's the way you align it. Now, keep in mind I've played exactly one game with it, so I am as
Yes.
proficient as I am with many other single activities. But no, I don't know for sure.
I'm glad you actually brought that up. I meant to mention it in the introduction, is that Dave actually did play a game on TTS today with this new detachment against Thousand Suns, right? Yeah. So we have one of the most experienced players in the world right now with this detachment on this stream right now. So
what a terrible lead I'm done for now. I'm blushing.
Yeah. I'm gonna rein things back in. So we're gonna get into the enhancements now. So there's the Mandulian Reliquary, which I'll just straight up say is the worst one. Grey Knight's model only, while the Bearer's unit is not battle shocked. You add 3 OC to the Bearer's OC characteristic. Cool.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's 20 points. There are better choices for fewer points later in the list.
You could make 5 Terminators 20 OC. Whilst it's funny, it's completely useless.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna be the guy who's like, no, actually.
You're still gonna be like, oh, but
let me adjust my glasses really quick.
It's 1 OC if I'm battle shocked.
I'm here
okay. So what it does is that 3 OC is actually decent on a Grandmaster Dread because it pushes the OC higher than your average vehicle. For 20 points though, it's a bit doo-doo.
But it's not going to push it higher than like an Armiger, right? Because they're 8 OC?
Yeah, they're 8 OC. So.
And what's the Grandmaster? This is how often I run Grandmasters. Okay.
I
don't run them.
I do like that. The thing with that, though, is if I'm sending a Grandmaster into something on an objective that is a vehicle, I want him to kill it. I don't want him to stand there and look pretty and then get cooked next round when I can't miss. And I think that's a good point. The break point of a baby knight being 8. I mean, yeah, it's good. If I had 20 points going spare in a list and I was taking a Dread Knight anyway, yeah, I'd probably throw it on him.
Yeah.
And then forget that I had it and lose objectives.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
I've been there. That's why
I think if it was like 5 points, it would be 5 or 10 points. That'd be like, yep, that makes sense.
It's the worst of the group. All right, Radiant Champion. So I've heard a lot of hilarious stuff, and I'm glad that I came up with some of the same wombo combos. But Grey Knight's infantry model only. The bearer's melee weapons have precision, and while the bearer is wholly within your army's hallowed ground, each time a melee attack made by the bearer scores a wound, that is a very important set of like series of particular words there. The target takes 1 mortal wound in addition to normal damage. That isn't unsaved wounds. That isn't wounds that go through and cause damage. That's just if you do wounds.
Yep.
You do 1 more mortal wound. That's pretty good. Immediately people were like, well, let's stick this on a Brochamp. It's like, he already has full rerolls into anything that you really care about, and he already has precision. So do you really want to put this on him? Yeah, he'll do some mortal wounds. You get the rerolls, so like more mortal wounds. I was like, this thing would be boss on a Tech Marine, because our Tech Marines are surprising little melee assassins. And if you give them precision, they're really good at it.
They are.
Yeah. So
that was kind of where I leaned with it. Because you explained to someone that a Tech Marine already has their buffed profile in Grey Knights, and people go, that can't be true.
Yeah.
Like, here's the
data sheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you that
with our servitors as well. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but especially because we can attach servitors there. So all of a sudden you have like 8 Melta shots hitting on 3s because they're +1 ballistic skill. They are, re-rolling those hits. You can give them, +1 to wound, or sorry, re-roll 1s to wound. And then all of a sudden they're attached to like a nuclear Tech Marine, and he just has a blade of wounds. It's absurdity.
Yeah.
And I believe, if I'm thinking correctly,
that's also a unit. That is a unit matchup right there where, like, when you have one tank that needs to die and it needs to die this turn, like, you can probably make that happen. But in a lot of situations, that's going to be the unit you grab at the end of your opponent's turn with our army rule, and you pull your cards, and then you bring them down to do an action. somewhere, because guess what? There's only infantry on the board, or the tanks haven't like come out to play yet. So you're not, it's not like doing an action with a 10-man Terminator blob with Drago in it, which feels horrific. That is 500 and something odd points of your army doing nothing, right? So for those of you that don't know, and I don't know the entire Tech Marines profile off the top of my head, but they do have 8 attacks, and 4 of those are strength 8. So like he's pretty good. You put precision on him and he starts doing mortal wounds, like, the Brochamp is really funny because they get fights first. So if you have it on the Brochamp and you get like charged by a Wraith block or something, you just kill the Technomancer.
And then you're kind of gaming.
Yeah, and then you just peel apart Wraiths for the next turn and have a great time, right? Yeah. This one's pretty good. It's only 15 points. File of the Abyss is the next one. Grey Knights, infantry, model only. Models in the bearers unit have stealth. So this is kind of like Voldus Light. So stealth is only ranged attacks, while Voldus is ranged and melee, which is hilarious. If you ever get like a Voldus block stuck into orcs, they hate you. And it's comedy gold. But anyway,
I love Voldus.
Actually, so quick aside, Dave ran Voldus at WCW, and I wanted to pick his brain about it, but here we are instead.
Yeah. I like this. So when I played my test game earlier, I took it. I think it's interesting. I took it on a Brotherhood chaplain with the intention being of sticking him with 10 paladins. So then I've got a stealth -1 to wound with a +1 to wound on top of it, right? That was kind of my thinking. Now, ultimately, I played into T-Sons, so he became my containment machine, and Libby went in with the paladins with no enhancement. But such is life, feel no pain over stealth, to be honest with you. I think it's interesting. 25 points is a bit on the pricey side for me, especially when the first thing that's on the chopping block for me in this list is a brick of paladins. Like a brick is the first thing I'm considering cutting. So do I really want to give them stealth? It's a tricky one. It's handy for when they get caught with their kind of dick in the wind, when they fail a 9-inch charge and they're about to eat a ton of shooting. Stealth -1 to wound is nice to have. Nice to have, not need to have, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one is Paragon of Sanctity. Grey Knights model only. Once per battle at the start of any phase, the bearer may select one friendly unit or friendly Grey Knights unit within 18 inches invisible. If it does, until the end of the phase, it is within your army's hallowed ground. So this is 10 points. Like, name me a Grey Knights list that you haven't built and been like 15 points short and then had to redo the whole damn list to find those 15 points. So this lets you just slam it on something for 10 and be at 1995 at least.
I'm gonna do what Tommy did for the first enhancement. I think this is actually maybe the best one in the index. As you say, you've always got a couple of points spare. You definitely have 10 points spare. You stick this on a Libby, a Grandmaster, something you're using to just bounce around and do actions. But the turn that you desperately need just something to die, you drop, put yourself wholly within. You've got full rerolls. You can pop +1 or reroll 1s to wound, and you can really go to town with this unit. For 10 points, it's going to save people some games, I think. I think it's underrated vastly.
One of the things that I'd like to note based on the wording is it says the start of any phase. So, like, let's say you have a fights first strike brick, and they're just outside of hollowed ground or whatever. It's your opponent's fight phase. They have fight first. You can actually pop this on them. So there's a lot of play. It does not say in your, at the start of any of your phases. It's any phase. So there's some play there. Yeah. And this is where I threw together in an instant. This morning I threw together a 6 Dread Knight I think it was 2 strike squads, a Libby, and 3 5-man purifiers, and it was like 1980. And then I said, oh yeah, I'd probably put like Paragon on one of the Grandmasters just for giggles, right? So like it's already playing out as, oh, you have some spare points, just throw this on there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So what do we think? Like, what do we think about the enhancements overall, Tommy?
I think they're pretty good. I think like what Dave was saying, the 10 points for full rerolls on demand is pretty amazing. You can just do it anytime. Whether that be an Overwatch, a heroic intervention, like it's one of those things that like just has a lot of room for like player expression on it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Radiant Champion also would be good on a brother captain with a Terminator, like a Terminator squad. Like full rerolls with lethals is just gross, and then
with sustained hits,
with sustained hits, like
yeah,
it just makes that 5-man that you're going to rapid ingress and charge on something just really, really solid as like a trading piece, and like this is now my point, and then your Dread Knights can just go run around doing whatever.
Yeah, it is only his, like it's only the bearer, but like for instance, let's say you charge in Orc unit, they have a War Boss. The War Boss gives +1 to wound. You can target out the War Boss, kill it, and even though it won't count for your activation for any like defensive stuff that leader's doing, when they activate right after you, now they don't have the +1 to wound. Like that can actually be huge.
Yep. Yeah. And then you also have like full rerolls to wound on the brother captain out of the box. So it just gives that it just adds that consistency to it. It's a pretty solid option. I like the enhancements. The initial read on them, these I have no idea what these are doing. These are garbage. And then the more I've crunched on it, it's just stuff pops out. So.
One of the things I like to see when I'm reading a codex or any new like detachment is, comparing it to the index, does it make you want to play units that otherwise weren't played? Okay, obviously this detachment is going to make you play purifiers. Like if you run this detachment and you don't bring purifiers, you are intentionally playing this incorrectly. Or suboptimally, I should say. Maybe not incorrectly. Maybe you want to play it suboptimally. That's fine. But anyway, my point is, like, this is great. Like Dave was saying, this is going to force you to think MSU. This is going to force you to bring purifiers. Which also means we'll have more units. Instead of having 7 units, and then you have to do sabotage, and, a fucking 1/3 of your army is doing actions that turn, right? Like you'll be MSU. It won't feel as bad to be able to to have to actually do that.
I have more units in my 5 Dread Knight list than I do in my WCW list that only took 3 Dread Knights.
I believe it. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
the interesting thing I thought for this comparatively to the index. Every stratagem here costs 1 CP, and Grey Knights are already starved for CP.
Yeah.
So you're netting. It doesn't seem like it, but you're netting CP.
That's true.
The other thing for kind of Tommy as well, we'll both align on this, I'm guessing. WCW, how many times did you use the Grey Knight loan up strat for 2 CP?
What?
Because I used it once and it won me a game. By the way,
you did?
But,
oh man! Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is like. The amount of times you tell people your strats and you're like, I have AOC, I have deep strike within 3, I have dev wounds if I ever use it, I've clearly gone insane and I have CP out the wazoo, and you kind of
or GM
and yeah, exactly, and I can advance and shoot, and it's like no one cares. Those don't exist. They're not real. You only have 2, maybe 3 stratagems. I looked at these and was like, I could foreseeably see a way where I will use each one of these stratagems. And in the game I played earlier, I used 4 of the 6. Like all of them have use, and they all allow, most importantly to me anyway, they all allow for unique player skill expression, which I think is the most important part about these strats.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the
definitely agree with
strats
you.
yet, but yeah.
Yeah. To answer your question, the last time I used the lone op strat was in a game against a double stompa list. So we had already crossed the Rubicon into silly land. So
Yeah. So my quick tangent, my problem with Halo in Soulfire is that if you wanted to use it proactively, I think it should be 1 CP. If you want to use it reactively, I think it should stay 2 CP. Then I think that strat is fixed. It's real bad for us to have to spend 2 CP, but maybe you save 8 paladins sitting on an objective being stared down by 3 Forge Fiends, right? Like, but the fact that you have to use it in your movement phase, and then hope that, what is it?
So bad.
Shooting, or movement, shooting, charge, fight, command, movement, shoot. So like 8 phases later, it comes into play. Is a pretty hard.
8 phases later, you need
pretty
to
hard.
hope you remember it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that. So, but Radiant Champion, just really quick. I think a Bro Champ like hits on 2, so he's rerolling 1s anyway. He's gonna wound whatever. Let's say it's a war boss. They're T5. He's going to be wounding them on 3s, re-rolling. Huh? Yeah.
Let's go with yes, I think.
Yeah, sure. He's going to be re-rolling, he's 3s, like re-rolling natively because it's a character unit. Like, this isn't even hollow ground, but with the strat, he's going to probably wound them 4 times and do a minimum of 4 mortal wounds. Even if they make every save, he's going to do 4 mortal wounds. And I think a war boss only has like 5 or 6 wounds. So you need 1 Nemesis Force weapon strike to actually get through. And if that guy fails all of his saves, guess what? The mortal still hit the rest of the unit. Like, the mortal still happened. And they're always done last, right? So I think this is actually really good. The Tech Marine is a hilarious addition. I think it's a Bro Champ or a like Brother Captains. I think for sure.
I mean, unless you want to go completely insane and then a Tech Marine with 8 servitors, I think, under WCW or WTC can attach to 10 Strike Marines, and then we're really gaming at that point.
That's actually true. Yeah.
Yeah. Then shit gets real at that point. But if you ever catch me doing that, clearly I've got a fever or something.
If only you could throw a Bro Champ on there so the whole thing gets fight first. All right.
Oh, I wouldn't let us do that.
So Tommy, do you want to read Sanctified Kill Zone for me?
Yeah, sure. So this one basically is shooting or fight phase, any Grey Knights unit, which is important because it's vehicles, infantry, anything you'd really want to be using. When you're on when you're not on hollowed ground, or sorry, you have to be on hollowed ground, right?
Yes.
So when you're on hollowed ground, you reroll wound rolls of 1. If you're a purifier squad, you're rerolling everything. So this is arguably, I think, the most powerful stratagem of the of this detachment, because what it allows you to do is like you can kind of hit the same ludicrous levels of full rerolls to hit and wound that you used to get on like Chosen out of a Rhino in the detachment. And like a 5-man purifier squad hits hard. Like it's good. Like it's going to trade up pretty well. And if you throw a 10-man at something, like it's just gonna punch a hole in the sun. Like it's
so, I just thought of this, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of cutting you off. Suddenly Razorbacks,
real good, eh?
Real good. Like everybody used to laugh at it, but like a Purgation squad climb out of Razorback takes the assault cannons just for more shots. Anything they hit, anybody that disembarked from it gets +1 to wound. Now you have full rerolls to hit, +1 to wound, and you're rerolling ones with a purgation squad to wound. Like that's actually gets spicy. And potentially you could have them like disembark behind terrain that the Razorback can see around. It engages a target, and you're doing that with indirect fire.
So
That's actually pretty gnarly.
You only get you get full rerolls to wound with fire support, not +1 to wound.
Oh, it's full rerolls. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was +1 to wound.
You get
My
the
bad.
strat for free though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thesis is there. Like I think it's like full rerolls to hit with like 4 side cannons. That's pretty solid, and like you can deliver that to an area where like you will not they might not be able to get cover. So and afterwards you got a rhino hole to go do things.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's like another thing. I've only played 2 games with my Death Guard army now, but having Shaft, having rhinos to go do things, or just deep strike deny, and otherwise just sit there and be annoying is like, oh my gosh, I missed. My Grey Knights don't get to do any of that because we don't get to bring any of these holes. But now it's like, ooh, there's some play there.
You get something.
Yeah. So that's cool. So we think this is a really solid strat, right? Everybody agrees? Yeah, I agree. In ninth, we used to spend 1 CP for reroll ones to hit and ones to wound. And we did it and we liked it. And I'm going to shake my cane now, but so this is very good. Dave, Flames of Sanctity.
Flames of Sanctity, yes. So, triggered in your fight phase. The target is a purifier squad from your army that was eligible to fight. So naturally, you are obviously taking purifiers in here. And you're rolling a d6 for each enemy unit within 6 inches of that particular unit, +1 if you have Crow. If you have purifiers, you have Crow. And if you're popping this strat, it's on Crow's unit. On a 4-up, on a 3-up, if you have Crow, an enemy unit within 6 takes D3 mortal wounds. Or sorry, every enemy unit within 6 takes D3 mortal wounds. I'm kind of fond of, like, half the time when you hit those charges with those units, you're kind of in the thick of it, and allowing you to like chip damage off of stuff round about you before you get hit back is, I don't know. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on this is. For 1 CP, being able to be super annoying to things round about you, are like Tommy, how many times do you hit a charge and there's like a Calidus nearby that they're vecting, or like something like that, and you're just like, if I could just get a little bit off it, you know what I mean? This
like
kind of just allows you to do those annoying little plays.
One fucking Mandrake still alive.
Exactly.
That's always passing battle shock, the little shit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I think this is, like, I can think of my last game at WCW, there were 2 scouts with, 3 wounds between the 2 of them after a charge, and they somehow tanked an entire shooting phase from Terminators. So, like, having something like that to where, like, just do some extra modals, things around you, get stuck in. It's really good, and it adds up, right, across the whole game. So
the only thing I don't particularly like, and I want to get to Damned Legion's question here in a bit, but the only thing I don't like is end of fight phase. It says end of the fight phase. So again, you can pop this. If let's say you have unlimited CP, like you can pop this at the end of every fight phase as long as you have purifiers that are alive. And the thing is, how often, unless you have a 10-man, are like purifiers going to make it to the end of a fight phase? You know what I mean? Like there's so much stuff out there that as soon as it touches you, you're just dead. Like, if you're like charged by Exalted 8-bound, like goodbye to your purifier unit, right? Like, don't get charged by Exalted 8-bound is what I'm saying right here. But like, it's just, there's some times where I'm looking at it like, if it was start of fight phase, astronomically good. It's end of, and it's kind of like, purifier unit might not be alive at the end of the fight phase. Also, quick aside, I just want to think it's really note it's really funny that in the lore there are like 44 purifiers, and in this detachment you can take 30 of them.
Yeah. It's a very specific niche group of this detachment.
Right, yeah. We have to fight this Ultramarines army right now for some reason. Anyway, I just thought that was gold. So Damn Legion asked, what is up with the Hallowed Ground Warp Zone, like Shadow of the Warp? Like, it feels like recycled BS. Is, like, do you think it is?
Tommy, you can take that one away, man. Oh, man. Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I think it's like, it is very similar mechanics with like smaller tweaks, which I think is part of like a broader game design choice that GW is making, where it's like, I don't like, you just can't write 20 some odd factions with 6 different detachments and not have there be overlap, like, or have like it be a balancing nightmare. I think you know, maybe they could do some variation around the mechanics where it's like, instead of doing like the, you know, Canoptic Court full rerolls, maybe it's, you know, if you're like on an objective or something like that. Like, they could differentiate it by that, but then you could also run into situations where you have different wordings on things that can get kind of confusing, right? So I think it's a decent compromise, but I also think that like there is enough difference to where like this doesn't feel like the Demon's Detachment. It feels different.
Yeah. So the difference to me is that, you know, when the Demon's Index hit, and it was only Be'lakor that had the 6-inch aura, right? Or was it a 9-inch aura of like, he always had the Shadow of the Warp or whatever the hell it's called around him?
He had like 12-inch lone op or something, like a lone op aura. But or are you talking about the Locust thing?
Yeah, so you could use him as like a Deep Strike Locust when 10th Index hit, and then they changed it so any greater demon could actually do that. What happened with this detachment, though, is they gave the greater demon aura to a 125.5 man unit.
Hell yeah, brother!
Instead of a 400 to 7, or well, not that much, but like 350 to 500 point greater demon. Like they gave us that with a 125.5 man.
I'm a-okay with that.
Yeah.
The Damned Legion's point, like I think I kind of lean the other way. It feels like first of all, it feels like a bit of a pendulum swing. Like when every index or codex that came out got 3-inch deep strike, it was like, oh, okay, everyone's getting our shtick, but they have better guns, or they have better things to do with it, or they have better data sheets. Now the pendulum's swinging back the other way, and we've had, Shadow of Chaos, we've had Power Matrix, we've had the Flow of Magic, or whatever the T-Suns one is, and now we're getting it. However, here's where we switch this one up. I don't think it's lazy writing in the sense of like they're just tossing stuff out of there. I think it only seems lazy because, the three of us here, the folks listening, we are attached to the meta and the changing game. We're very attached to it. We are about 2% of the player base. The other 98% they might never play a Necrons player in their entire life because all they do is play with their friend, and their friend plays Ultramarines, and they love it, and they play each other every day, right? And this guy has this cool new stand on points and I do stuff. I've never seen that before, right? So it feels lazy because we're very in tune with it, and we understand what this game is about and what it represents and all the changing dynamics of it. But to the average Garage Hammer player, this is the most unique thing they've seen on planet Earth, and they fucking love it. And it's great. Good for them. They're happier than I am about 40k, that's for sure.
No, that's
a healthy relationship with it for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point. And and your next point with like a lot of the strats being like limited to being in your hallowed ground, the detachment also gives you, again, if you bring purifiers, when they come in, wherever they are, 6 inches around them is hallowed ground, even if it isn't like hollow ground yet. So you get a lot of play that way, and it's not like they're just taking it from you and saying get on objectives or you never get this, right? They're like giving you ways to play around that. So he says happier than a Scotsman in a distillery.
I'm gonna let the side down a little bit. I can't stand whiskey, but I appreciate the reference.
Oh wow, no wonder you moved to Canada.
I know, I can't stand this stuff. It's absolutely vulgar.
They drummed you out.
Oh dear.
All right, I'll take Hallowed Beacon. So in the reinforcement step of your movement phase, one Grey Knight's infantry unit excluding Terminators, that's big, that is arriving using Deep Strike or Teleport Assault, may be set up wholly within, if it is set up wholly within your army's hallowed ground, they can be 6 inches away instead of 9, and then it does not stipulate that you cannot charge. So you can have Purifiers, Strike Marines, Interceptors, anything power armor coming in from Deep Strike 6 inches away, and then they only have to make a 6-inch charge. Which also means, like, you could have a little Drago missile of 5 Terminators plop down on the other side of the board, charge for their 6-inch charge, and then have this charge also go off. So, like, there's a lot of play here where, like, in your movement phase, you bring down a 10-man, like, Crow Brick, you blow away a screening unit, then you can, another unit you brought down in your movement phase can now charge into, maybe at a 7 or an 8 into what you actually want to kill in your melee phase that turn, or get on the objective. Like, this lets us kill screens really, really well.
Yeah. So with so you can have Drago, and then you have this unit, and then you can be disappointed twice.
Oh, Tommy.
It's a good way to rip 2 CP out of you because one of them's failing that charge.
Yeah, exactly.
One of them is guaranteed failing it, and it's always going to be Drago, that piece of shit. No, this is really, really good. And like you talked about earlier, Rick, when you can bring down the purifiers casting that little bubble. And the thing to note here as well, obviously, this has to be set up wholly within. But for the purifiers from the rest of their benefits, for example, full rerolls to hit, they have to be within. Not wholly.
Oh, it is just within. I thought it was wholly within.
99%. If it's not, and Simon, if you're listening to this, I cheated you. I apologize, but I believe it's within. Wholly within. Oh, wholly within. Pardon me. It's wholly within. I cheated you.
You did cheat him, Simon. Oh no.
No. It was. What do you call it? It was a different enhancement I was reading. Pardon me. I'm not very good at reading, I'm afraid. But no, I guess the important thing here to remember is that you're landing within 6, you're charging, you're hitting them. If those purifiers are close enough, or those purifiers happen to make a charge as well, which you're definitely throwing at this point, all of a sudden you're just casting this kind of mobile castle of hallowed ground, which is still difficult for me to remember to say. That is just clubbing everything it touches. Yeah, I don't know. I love this. I love this stratagem, and I would happily give up the 3-inch deep strike in the index for this stratagem. I think it's brilliant. Even if it was worded this way, I think it's great.
To that point, if the rumors are true, not only is AOC being nerfed, but 3-inch deep strikes across the board are being nerfed to 6 inches anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is, I don't know. Going back to many other videos I've had, like, Grey Knights are a melee army, hyper maneuverable, but can only deep strike, and we have one ability to get, with 2 with 1 enhancement. Like, you're rolling 9-inch charges almost all the time out of deep strike, unless you're Drago once a game, or you have the +1 to charge enhancement that I can't remember the name of now. Anyway, that's it. Those are, like, we don't get reroll charges. We don't get +2 to charge on our whole army or whatever, right? It's just those two things. And so, like, you know, when Drago fails and you do the reroll and you're like, oh, it's a 92% probability to make, and then he fails again, and you're like, well, I just landed it like the 8%, and I hate my life. This, you get to do this, you get to at least try again the next turn with this stratagem, because like Drago can only do it once a game. Yeah.
No, that's very true.
So I like this too. I think it's cool. If you listen to my video I did earlier, or last week actually, about the T-Suns detachment and how it would be an amazing Grey Knights enhancement, there's a stratagem in there that allows rubrics to charge out of Deep Strike. It specifically excludes Scarab Occult Terminator, so it reads basically exactly the same. So great stratagem, really fun too.
Yeah, my friend, a friend of mine's Brian made the remark one time that he, and I quote, "You make more 9-inch charges than I've ever seen anyone make." And my rebuttal to that is, I attempt more 9-inch charges than you've ever seen anyone attempt.
There you go. Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
Yeah,
Like,
no one does them as often as Grey Knights.
Index Grey Knights rely on two things. One, always rolling 4 up invols, and 2, always rolling 9-inch charges.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and as long as you can always roll 9s, you know, and 4s, you're unstoppable.
Yeah. Easiest game in the world, dude.
Yeah. I did have a game once where I set up 4 or 5 different charges on my like turn 3, and they range from like 4 inches to Drago's 9, like with his +3 and the reroll. I failed all of them, and then I lost nearly my entire army the very next turn. My opponent shot like the whole army off the board. It was awful.
That is grim. Yeah, we don't like that.
No. So this helps stop that from happening. All right, next strat, Fires of Covenant. You want to hit this one, Tommy? We're just gonna cycle through.
This one's basically Pissed of Deimos, where instead of dancing back into the shadows, you do some damage when people come close. So start of your movement phase, or your opponent's movement phase, 1 Grey Knight's infantry unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time the enemy makes a normal move, advance, fallback move within 6 inches of a unit, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result if you're within hallowed ground. On a 4+, that enemy suffers d3 mortal wounds. So Smite is back, but just with terms and conditions. I think this is kind of a cool one. This seems like you could use it to really gum up someone just dumping chaff onto, like, cultists or whatever onto an objective. Like, you combine this with like an Overwatch, and it's actually like legitimately you're not stepping on this objective at all. Like, so I think it's pretty cool. I'd be curious to see how you guys plan to use it, but I think it's got some interesting applications. It's very conditional, but seems cool.
Dave?
I really like it. I used it in my game earlier. A brick of 10 paladins knocked, to Tommy's point, a squad of cultists off an objective. And behind a wall is a 3-wound Ahriman. In front of me is a 5-wound Magnus. Behind me is a wounded MVB, to the side of me is a wounded MVB. And you pop this strat, and all of a sudden it's like, shit, I can't move. Like, these paladins, you finish within 6, you're getting cooked. And it just really starts the wheels turning in your opponent's head. It's very specific. Tommy, like you said, it's super situational. But when you use it and when you need it, or when you really want to pop it, you're going to be so glad that you have it. So those kind of fall back and charge armies, you're going to fall back and charge me, you're going to hate it. And I'm sorry in advance. Like, I'm a fan of it, especially for 1 CP. Sure, you have to dictate it at the start of the movement phase, but the one condition I will say that I noticed on this is that with 3-inch deep strike going away, one of the things this specifically calls out is setups, and setups very seldom trigger on stratagems. So I found that quite interesting.
I'd like to also note, like, to your point, when you said like Armin's behind a wall, there is no visibility requirement either.
Nope.
It is legitimately just within 6 inches of this unit. And if you do the, like, you know, potentially, if you've got like a 10-man with Crow with 11 models and you've strung it out in a conga line, it could be a lot of units. Is it? I mean, I don't think that's a way to play the game. Like, you probably conga line for another reason, but when you realize, oh my god, I could potentially do like 63 mortal wounds on this turn, I should probably pop 1 CP, you know, like, that's probably worth it. But yeah, it does not say like invisible.
Can you
It's just
imagine
6
how
inches.
awesome it would be? Like you dump in like a bunch of like a big like unit of like strike marines or something like that. You pop flames of sanctity. It does a mess of mortal wounds to everything around you. And then at the beginning of their movement phase, you're tagged into a bunch of stuff and they want to fall back and you just are like, all right, you're going to take mortal wounds for all of that.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty cool.
Another thing to note is that the way that movement works, like if there's an advance in charge army, if they end their normal move within 6 inches, they take D3, and then if they advance and like end within, let's say, 2 inches of you, they take another D3.
Yep.
That's just the way the movement phase works. So, you know, if you got a lot of chap that moves really fast, or cultists, like, you know, Death Guard cultists, if they're trying to snag an objective, you know, if they normal move within 6 and then advance into you, like, they're taking 2d3 mortal wounds, which could theoretically kill more than half of the unit straight away. So
Yeah.
it's not nothing.
It very much feels like our Mists of Deimos replacement in this particular index, which I have no issue with. You know, this is kind of the, how do I put this? As you can see, there's not a cat in my house, so please don't interpret this as some kind of like animal training advice. But if a cat jumps on your counter, if Mists of Deimos was kind of jabbing it with a poker, this is just the spray bottle. We're like, take D3 models and bugger off. You know, it's very light. It's a very light touch. But it's definitely, yeah, I like it personally. I think it's a very good stratagem. Very situational, but when I pop it, I'm going to be very glad that I have it.
It is ends, so it's kind of like Mists, where like there's like you have to pay specific attention to like the wording. So if you're in engagement range with a unit that has like a 9-inch movement and they fall back and they end further than 6 inches, this doesn't work. So be thinking of that before you pop it and then waste a CP. You know, like a tank, let's say a Falcon from like Eldari has 1 wound left. It falls back. Well, it's moving more than 9 inches. It flies and, like, what's this movement? 10 at least? 11? Well, like, whatever.
Definitely
Anyway,
more than 6.
Yeah, it's so you're not gonna, if you're hoping to be like me, it's not starts, it's ends. So be aware of
my
that.
opponent very cleverly had the +2 movement enhancement on Magnus, so Adaman just buggered off, and I was furious.
Oh, Carl Dingus is saying that you either make a normal move or an advanced move. That is good to know.
Yeah, they're not
And-
separate.
yeah,
It's
okay.
one or the other.
Okay, that's good. That's actually really good to know. I guess I
The
confused it
interesting-
because like you can roll an advance and roll like a 1 and then decide not to move that far, and so I guess I was kind of thinking of them as like 2 different things. But
The interesting thing, sorry, just before we continue, but this
Yeah,
strategy
no,
I
absolutely.
think is very interesting, so I kind of want to mention a few things about it. The old interaction where, you know, someone would send something through a wall and you would overwatch. I saw some players do this, myself included, when I first started playing Grey Knights. You would earnestly overwatch the thing that came through the wall, and then on that movement use mists as well, which obviously you can't do. This still gives you an overwatch threat, and they're still going to eat mortal wounds. You know, this is triggered at the start of your opponent's movement phase, whereas Overwatch is reactive. So you're really doubling down on your threat for moving near you with this particular stratagem.
yeah, and especially if you're rocking like a purgation squad that's down to, you know, they started as a like 10-man and now it's just the 4 like incinerators left. They got +1 to wound, man. Like, you know, they could potentially cook a lot of infantry. So
Oh yes.
fascinating. All right, Aegis Eternal. Who's up next? Dave, this is you, right?
Oh, smashing. I like Aegis Eternal, so this is good. So this is popped in your opponent's shooting phase only. When they target a green, it's infantry unit from your army, and until the end of the phase, if they are wholly within your hallowed ground, they have a 4-up invuln save. We talked about this at the top of the show, Rick. I know you mentioned it at the top of the show. You have to be taking an insane amount of AP3, if you don't have cover, presumably. You have to be taking an insane amount of AP3 before this becomes really valuable.
Forge Fiends?
Now, Forge Fiends, exactly, exactly. Now, I played a T-Sense player. He popped the Cabal Ritual to give +2 AP on a unit. My 10-man squad of strikes for the champ. It's like, okay, them. They'll have an invuln this phase, right? And so yeah, it's I don't know. Again, situationally very useful. I'm happy to just have a stratagem suite that contains a very varied toolbox, and this is one of them. I do like this stratagem a lot because you are going to be running infantry bodies without invulns.
It does say Grey Knights infantry. You're obviously not going to ever pop them on Terminators because they just have a 4-up invul anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, if you get hit with, you know, like -3 AP flamers that ignore cover, you're going to want to be pressing this button because they're probably shooting at something that you very much want to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's cool. It's 1 CP. It helps our like power armor be a little more like tanky when you need it to be. So I don't have a problem with this strat at all.
No, nor do I. As I say, especially if you want to run things like interceptors who put themselves in dangerous positions, or, you know, you just drop that purifier squad and you hallowed ground off of it, they're going to try and hit that. Like, that's their big, you know, scary big, this must die because it powers the army unit. The 4-up invuln button. Oh, I lost one. Oh, I sure hate to be +1 to hit. What a shame.
One thing to note is it's shooting phase only. So like if you drop your purifiers in front of a ready to go unit of Ludas and they overwatch you, that's the movement phase. You can't use this. If you get charged, you can't use this. So, you know, it is shooting phase only. Actually, is there? I mean, I can't think of a whole lot of stuff that's not on a monster or Drago that has more than 2 AP in melee anyway. Or like some kind of crazy character. It's not like there's a, you know, chosen Terminators running around with -3 AP like power weapons, right? It's all like -2 or lower anyway, right?
You're asking questions now. I mean, obviously you've got like Leagues of Votann who can pop 1 CP for Ancestral Sentence and go to AP4 on Plasma Knives and stuff like that. That's pretty annoying. And I know that that's something that Votann
at least we
target to do.
At least we get a save.
Yeah, that's true. That is
a whole lot of armies don't even get a save at that point.
Small mercies.
I think Incubi can get up there with strats.
Yeah.
And like
and like pain tokens and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, I mean, 8 bound are AP2, right? Like,
yeah.
So
and they're known as a fantastically hard hitting unit. So
yeah, I mean they're definitely out there, but ultimately you can't even use it in the fight phase. So shoot me and I'll pop it. Fight me and I'll die. Except I won't die because I fight first, and I'll kill you.
Right. I'm just thinking of like, you know, did they miss something here? Like, would it have been good if they included it in the fight phase? But then I'm like, you know, Drago's -4, but he's one of the few. Like, I honestly, and for the life of me, cannot think of a profile that is -4 except Melta.
Yeah, no, certainly not in melee. I think
in melee specifically.
Yeah, the thing for me, think, you know, kind of the example you're giving there, Rick. If this was 2 CP and it covered both phases, would I take it over this for 1 CP? I think the answer is no.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, and I think I'm less tempted to like waste the command point on it, right? Like I definitely like hit the safety button with Armor of Contempt a few too many times.
That's fair. All right. I'll handle the last one. Repelling Sphere, arguably the worst strat on the list. It's conditional
Oh,
for reasons I don't know why. No, my problem with it is the why it's conditional. And I get why like purifiers, blah blah. Anyway, um, Grey Knight infantry unit from your army that is at the start of your opponent's charge phase, they're -1 to charge you, and you subtract 2 instead if you're wholly within your hollowed ground. So like purifiers are gonna be able to pop this and automatically be like a -2. I think this is a great defensive strat. Just -1 and then making it conditional to -2 feels really bad when like, you know, I don't know if custos still have it, but like in ninth, like Tanglefoot was everywhere, you know, or the like Tau -2 to charge strat. Those aren't conditional, they're just you get -2. So it feels kind of bad that this one is conditional. It makes sense with the army design. I'm just like saying, you know, from a game design standpoint, it seems kind of weird that they have this conditioning out, you know. It does suck if you come in from deep strike and then you immediately make them -1 to charge you, though.
Yeah, my buddy Carlos has thrown the old Tau grenade at me enough times that I understand just how painful it is to get -2'd. When I played in my game earlier, my opponent brought a squad of rubrics and an Infernal Master in to try and knock me off a point, kind of take a point from me. And the minute they try that charge, I'm just like, okay, it's an 11. Like it's an 11 out of strats. Enjoy, like the again, it's almost like every strategy and we've talked about so far. Yes, it's super conditional. Yes, getting that -2 is not difficult. You're already incentivized to be within your hallowed ground. But my God, when it's good, is it useful? It's I don't know, Tommy. What do you think?
yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think if it wasn't conditional, it would be busted. Like like -2 with the way like two dice rolling works, it's like it you're like most of the time you're going to get a 7, right? And the most probabilistic roll that you're going to get is now pushed to like a 50% chance with a reroll. Like and so like it just shifts everything on that probability curve like just over enough to where yeah, like what you thought was going to be an easy 6-inch charge, like that's pretty like you have to invest command points in that and it's a pretty risky charge, right? And it's like yeah, you can use it to counter the Drago charge.
That's
I
very
mean,
funny. That is
dude,
very, very funny.
Yeah.
he deserves only the worst.
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys hate Drago so much. I like having him charge into small knights and having him kill one by himself and then his whole 10-man having to kill one other.
I've been hurt before.
Exactly. Exactly. He lives in my cupboard now. He never comes out.
Aw, poor
No, listen,
Drago.
yeah, for all the reasons Tommy just outlined, this is great. And to kind of revisit it, because I keep trying to bring it back to this, we're taking purifiers here. We have flamers, we have a bunch of anti-infantry 2-up guns, we have infinite shots. Often we're going to be at +1 to wounds. We're definitely going to be re-rolling. So you want to charge me, you move forward, I overwatch the living shit out of you. You're like, oh, well, at least I got a 7. Actually, no, you have a 9. Like, it's yeah, as I
That's
say,
true.
I'm like, especially into like a World Eaters matchup or something like that. I know they already move infinity miles per hour, but it just gives you a lot more control over their charge phase, which ultimately lets you play your charge phase. That sounded very profound. I don't think it actually was.
Yeah. If this was a pre-recorded video, like I definitely really focus in on that and like replay that over and over and over, you know, a few
Great fun.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's going to quote that to me when they inevitably charge the living shit out of me in
Yeah.
a game. Remember when you said this, you idiot?
With like all 6 grot squads get to roll up on you and you're like, what?
Yeah. Joke's on you, you're taking D3 mortals in the movement phase.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna blast an 11-inch charge and just dance on your grave.
I mean, it is a dice game, right? Like the dice swing both ways. I've had
It's gonna
one.
happen.
I've had one DK not fail like a single 4-up its entire first, in an entire game, and then I've had a DK never make a single one and die immediately. So I mean, been there. Hell, I've had Drago in 8th when he had a 3-up invul die immediately. So it's a dice game.
At a certain point, I need to stop leaving things in the cupboard for failing saves and failing charges.
Yeah, you're paying a lot more for models now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna start playing guard.
Oh, absolutely not. My list is going to be
Games Workshop loves it when you do that.
Yeah,
because you're buying more models, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to switch away from the PDF view now. So, how are we feeling now that we've had a little bit of time to really digest this? Like, do we think this is Necron's Star Strike, whatever it's called, Star Swallow? I don't know. What's it called? Shatter. Star Shatter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Star Verb.
Yeah. So I think the thing for me is that we are already so non-prevalent in the meta that we can never be Star Shatter because there's just not enough of us, right?
Sure.
But what this does give us is the opportunity to be offensive in how we play. We don't have to be defensive. We don't have to be reactive. We don't have to take punches. We don't have to be this like sneaky little army that people don't like playing. We get to be this army that just plays like blue collar Warhammer to an extent. We are still a bit sneaky, but people get to interact with us. We get to fight them. We get to punch. We get to hit. We get to actually interact and play meaningful Warhammer. And that combined with the fact that this thing does kill shit given the chance is great to me. I think it's Star Shower or do I think it's a 10 out of 10 detachment? No, I don't think it is. Do I feel really, really excited to play this and test it? Yes, I do. 100%.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
No, please. You're the guest. I need to shut the hell up. It's all about you guys, not me.
No, like I agree with that. Like it's I don't have to play this passive fight in shadows type of play style or stat checking people. Like I can one of the really interesting things that like as I was just kind of rolling out dice and just kind of seeing how this felt into different targets on unit crunch, I was like, wow, like the 5 Dread Knight list, I think I can actually cut one of the Dread Knights because I don't need that many. Like the whole point of those, like the 6 Dread Knight list initially was having enough volume to overcome the variance, right? With full rerolls, like that kind of goes out the window, and you can start doing more interesting things with the units, and it's not just sit behind the wall, the detachment, or I guess the index. So I'm excited. So
do you play a lot of teams events, Tommy?
I have not played a team event. It is on my bucket list, but
I think from a team's perspective, this also gives Grey Knights a bit more leeway. Like previously going to a team's events with a Grey Knights list, you were just like, you were Mr. Blocker, you were Mr. 10-10. It doesn't matter what we throw you to, you're going to come out of it and you're probably going to score pretty close because, you're going to die a lot and you're not going to kill any of their armor, but you're also going to score pretty well. So enjoy. Whereas this is like, here's the scary Grey Knights list that's going to run up and kick you in the teeth, and it becomes a lot more scary. Just modifying the playstyle here, especially for singles and teams. That's pretty cool.
One of the things I like to mention, and I don't know if this is actually a design oversight, because it kind of makes me wonder. It says Grey Knight unit from your army gets rerolls. Doesn't say Grey Knight Psyker. Doesn't say Grey Knight Infantry. Just says Grey Knight. So your Rhinos getting rerolls, your Land Raiders getting rerolls, your Storm Ravens getting rerolls, your fucking everything with your servitors. Your servitors are getting rerolls because they have the Grey Knight keyword. There's a lot of confusion where folks thought they didn't have it unless a Tech Marine joined. They don't have Deep Strike unless a Tech Marine joins, but they do have the Grey Knight keyword. So, like, yeah, a lot of those really powerful strats in the index are directly gated behind Grey Knight Psyker. Like, could you imagine a Grey Knight Redeemer misting away?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
People
yeah.
would often ask me that. Can this mist? Don't know.
Yeah,
No, it cannot.
I've had that asked once, and I blinked at them really fast, like 3 times. Like, why the fuck would you think that would? But then, of course, like they have to ask. They don't know, but like, yeah, no, the Redeemer cannot miss away.
You miss of Deimos a Redeemer, rapid ingress it next to a charge target, and then Overwatch it when the World Leaders player goes in, and then lose a friend.
Yeah, and gain 1 black eye. Yeah, that you rightfully earned.
You earned it.
Yeah. No, so this is huge. Razorbacks suddenly like aren't missing ever. You know, like Storm Ravens aren't missing ever. You still get your -1 damage from the Storm Raven's hull. You know, unlike in Index where we were paying the same amount as Space Marines for the Storm Raven and getting no detachment benefit from it because we did, you know, Space Marines get oaths and we didn't, but our Storm Ravens wouldn't like teleport assault and they couldn't do like all the other stuff. They're directly getting a detachment bonus from this. Yeah.
Even before this index, weirdly enough, before this index came out, I was kind of workshopping a list that involved the Storm Raven and our Venerable Dreadnought, the one that gives the bubble of reroll 1s to hit and wound. And I was like, okay, so you take the Storm Raven, the Dreadnought falls out, everything gets the cool bubble, and it was like, if you've seen that meme of the person doing 7 gymnastics jumps to get to the same result of what this detachment is, like I was trying to figure out, now I just bring a Storm Raven and it goes in fly and it rerolls all these hits.
It's rerolling 1s at the very least. It's rerolling 1s, which is huge.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's one in my shopping cart right now, and I think if it wasn't for the fact there's a tax break coming in Canada, I'd have hit order already. So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah,
it's a super fun detachment.
So Brian's kind of getting to where I want the stream to go to in a moment. I'm purposefully leaving that a little mysterious. I do want to circle back. So we do this live for a reason, so you guys can interact with us, ask us questions. And Damn Legion actually asked, "What are your thoughts on the new Knights detachments?" I don't play Knights. I don't know if Dave does. I know Tommy plays Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let Tommy take this question.
I want to eat some cultists and run through walls. Like that is, I don't think it's a good, like, I don't think it's competitively good, but like you could jam it at an RTT and have a good time. Like I've got a list that I'm working on that the core of it is like 3 rampagers, 500 points of demons, and then like the rest is cultists to eat. And like, it's just nonsense, but I think it's cool. I still think the index attachment's a bit better, but
man,
I don't play Imperial Knights, so I from what I heard, like the AdMech detachment is fluffy but not good. So, but
the Imperial Knights one, I could take it or leave it. I kind of briefly read through it and was like, oh, this seems interesting for like 3 people on the planet. And if you're one of those Imperial Knights players, I'm dreadfully sorry, but it did not entertain. If it was Marie Kondo, it didn't spark joy. You know, I immediately deleted it. The Chaos Knights one, on the other hand, I found to be exactly what I want in a detachment. If it was slightly more competitively viable, double thumbs up. But it's super fluffy. It's useful. Your data sheets are already strong, so you're getting to use the full thing. And finally, you might get to turn up to a tournament and crank a full hog instead of taking 14 dogs. And that's dope.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want that.
That's true. Yeah,
hogs, brother.
Cranking hogs every day.
So tired of those hogs, man.
Yeah.
Dude, even with Drake, like Drago can only kill one a turn, so he can only kill half of them by himself by the end of the match. You know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? How much the new data slate will? Oh yeah, okay, I see. Sorry, I'm just dumb. Anyway, what do you guys think?
You're not at all. Brian is borderline illiterate. Don't
Okay,
worry about that.
all right, great. Woo. He's asking how much we think the new data slate may affect all of these new detachments, and I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. If they, you know, in some wild world where like all power armor comes down by 20 points a squad, like this detachment is absolutely unbearably bonkers. It's unstoppable, except by the most tailored list imaginable. So I don't know. I think it's kind of prophetic in a way, and I'm glad that you brought this up. Like, you notice how in the last points release, MSU Terminators went down in price, but Brick stayed the same. I kind of wonder if they thought that through. And they're like, well, we're about to release the MSU Grey Knights detachment, so let's give them an incentive to play that like Ed Watt style, lots of 5-mans, Libby's hiding in their Terminators so they don't immediately kill themselves, you know, kind of thing. So I don't know, man. There's if it's true about the AOC and the deep strike, the 3-inch like deep strike change, I think the index will become weaker, obviously. And the index was already sitting, I think, in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think Grey Knights after the change to sync missions, I think we're sitting at like a 38 or 40% win rate.
Well, it was 43 as of last week, and it had gone up.
Yeah. So
we're not doing much.
Yeah. The secret mission change kicked us in the nards real hard.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of big changes that I could see flowing through the data slate that really come to impact us. You've obviously touched on AOC, and we've touched on the 6-inch deep strike denial. The thing I think of with the 6-inch deep strike denial piece, though, for me is not so much how it affects us, but like I don't know, Tommy, how you play Grey Knights yourself, but my deployment zone, I'm out of there. You know what I mean? See you later. I'll be back later to check on you. Like, I leave it like my absentee father left us. Like, I'm just gone in a heartbeat. That's a terrible refrain. I'll continue before we can pause on that. And I just don't come back. And what that often meant was, like, I would set up a rudimentary screening unit and just leave, and a 3-inch deep strike unit would threaten my zone or be very annoying, and then I have to come back and deal with it, and I can't because I can't fucking charge it. Now it's like my screens just work. Like, I'm better as a result of other things not having my gimmick, and I don't really need my gimmick anymore because I'm just going to reroll ones and shoot you to death. So that's a change that, on the surface, I think appears to punish us, and then you dig a little deeper and realize kind of benefits us ever so slightly. I think Guard are probably going to get hit. I think we can all kind of roughly agree on that. Sisters are probably going to get hit, especially Castigators, Exos, and that kind of that Bringers of Flame style of play with the vehicle spam. Obviously, we're very scared of hulls, so hulls drifting out of the meta is going to help us. So I think there's a lot of play there where we see a reduction in our natural predators, and we become a lot more violent simultaneously with this index, and so you end up with kind of the best of both worlds in a lot of ways. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again, but I could see this data slate and this index kind of propelling us up a little bit more.
And I think there's also some knock-on effects on like what people are taking, right? Because Green's Deep Strike going away from like all the other detachments and data sheets means people will not take Deep Strike Denial. Like, they won't be taking 12-inch Deep Strike Denial, which is
Infiltrators are Infiltrators are an absolute like, I play Deathwatch, and the first thing I slam into every list is at least a 5-man infiltrator squad, you know?
Dude,
it's one of the It's one of the most insanely ridiculous units in the game. Screening is an act of like skill, like it's an expression of player skill, screening well. I don't think there's a single other unit in the game that you can deploy, never move, never activate in hostility, and get full benefit from at an amazing rate for 5 turns. There's nothing like it. It's so
the
good.
Navigator, but yeah. It's
Dude,
expensive though. It's 40 points or 50 points. Yeah, he's one model. Right.
Yeah, interceptors can like search and destroy. They can screen your entire deployment zone, and they never have to move. It's absurd.
Yeah. Well, and then you also throw in, like the librarian, and now it's got lone op and a fort, feel no pain against psychic, and it's just like.
I actually, so when 10th hit, I know the Phobos Librarian used to give them lone op. I think they just give them stealth now outside of 12. Like, I think they actually nerfed that several data slates ago.
You touched on a really interesting. Yeah. Sorry, on you go, please, Rick.
Oh, I was just saying, so when 10th hit, I took my Death Watch to a GT, and I deliberately had a Phobos Librarian with infiltrators because it gave them lone op at the time. But I looked this up just the other day, and the Phobos Librarian no longer gives lone op. I think they give stealth now.
It's stealth and lone op.
Oh, it's both?
Better. Why not?
Yeah,
they didn't. Okay, I'm wrong.
Both. And a 4 feel no pain against psychic.
All right, I'm wrong.
That's the piece that you mentioned, Tommy. I'd love to see that I'd love to see. It's not going to happen, but if it happens in the data slate, find me because I will be drunk. I'd love to see the removal of the kind of faction hate mechanisms. We talked earlier. I played a Grey Knights. I played a T-Suns player earlier today, and I shot 10 purifiers, just their psychic, into Araman, and I lost 3 purifiers, and Araman took 3 wounds because he has that, only against psychic, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like this is. Psychic is nothing more than a pure nerf by owning it. There's no benefit to it. It is a complete shambles.
That's why I love the T-Suns detachment, but if all the keywords could just change the Grey Knight.
Yeah.
The T-Suns detachment would be so good. For Grey Knights. Who wants 45 S8 attacks negative neg 2 damage, ignoring invulse coming at you from a 10-man paladin brick and a GM. Oh man, yeah, S8. That's a great break point into every vehicle in the game, man. Yeah. Anyway, it's not happening, clearly, but
we wish it was.
I do find it absolutely hilarious, Dave. The mental image of like a Grey Knight, like teleporting in all this crackle of lightning and stuff. And like he's surrounded by eldritch horrors with like 30 mouths and like penises for eyes and stuff. And he's like, let's go. But if he does the same thing and he sees a rhino, he's like, oh, what do I do?
100%. I only started playing Grey Knights in March of this year. I paint a faction for a year and then I play that faction for a year. And so I started playing them in March of this year. And my friend Brian had always said, I think you would be, okay with Grey Knights. And I was like, I don't believe you. And then my very first test game, I played him with World Eaters, and he brought 2 rhinos. And about turn, maybe top of 2, I turned to him and I said, if you just stay in those rhinos, I don't think I can get you out. And I was right. I mean, it's the most terrifying thing on planet Earth as a transport. I kill it in the fight phase, and then whatever was in it kicks the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Not now. I can shoot it now. I can shoot it indirectly, and it'll hate it.
And it'll actually hit it and make it do some saves.
Yeah, 100%.
Instead of like, I rolled some hits, they all missed. Anyway, next activation.
Yeah. I noticed a chap called Lee in the chat had asked what army or what faction were we most looking forward to playing against with this detachment, which I think is a super interesting question. Tommy, I don't know, do you want to, or Rick, do you want to grab that one?
Let's do Tommy. Go, buddy, go.
Oh, jeez, man. No.
Put you on the spot.
No pressure.
Yeah, no, I think I'd like to put this into Vanguard Space Marines. I think that would be a pretty interesting matchup. I also, for different reasons, would like to see how it performs into like Hypercrypt.
Hmm.
Um, Mainly because like I leaned on the 2-up armor save probably more than I with AOC more than I should have in that matchup, and I'm curious to see like what the shooting does to it. But yeah, I think those two would
I,
be my first ones. So
I think Votan for me is up there. Just because Votan has such a wide array of units, it sounds like they don't, but they kind of do because they have just a defined unit of each cat. They have that defined cavalry, they have that defined fighting unit, they have that defined Terminator body. So playing Votan is interesting because you get to experience that wide gambit of hull, bike, Termi in that single unit. And so discovering what you can kind of push through on several data sheets is quite interesting there. And in the old one, it was like, God forbid, the minute someone figured out to charge a 10-man Termi brick with a Hecaton and be like, that's never moving and you're never killing me, you're like, oh shit, they've got me. And so going into it now, we're like, you're built like, okay, you can do that if you want, but like, I'm going to hit you quite hard. I promise. Like, I'm going to reroll. We're going to push through some wounds, and you better save them. I'd really like to play them with it. And then simultaneously, I think Nids would be interesting because Nids big stuff used to be completely terrifying for us as well. And I
Yeah,
think
man.
giving
Crusher
that a bit
was
of play,
like Crusher was just like, okay, you win. Like, I don't know
yeah,
why.
congratulations.
I don't even want to play this game. It's just it's just gonna make me mad.
Yeah. I played a chap at Worlds who was playing Talons of the Emperor, and I rocked up to the table. I said, "Hello, nice to meet you." And he said, "I brought this list specifically to counter Grey Knights." Sick! What an introduction, dude. Love you. What a game! And let me
Yeah.
tell you, he did. I didn't do shit.
Yeah. I list tailored against you specifically.
I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was furious. He was like, "It's just a good list, but it just happens to kick the living shit out of Grey Knights." Okay, cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I actually rolled boxcars on a charge and he could heroic. And I thought, I really don't want to get heroic by 5 wardens and a blade champ. I'm re-rolling that charge, boxcars again. Furious, absolutely furious.
Wow.
Never playing Warhammer again.
I don't think
So
I've
many times.
ever been mad rolling boxcars on a charge.
Oh, I know.
Although
He
with
lamented.
great, I have rolled an 11 with Drago and I went 14 inches, which wildly put me out of where I. But because you have 2 end base to base, that did kind of. I was like, huh, that was maybe 2 inches too far. Which is not what
Oh,
she
yeah.
said.
No. Speaking of worlds, actually, I had some interesting interactions with judges to go back to Mists of Deimos. One of my
I did want to answer that question
please,
though, and I don't know what Tommy said because I was speaking with my wife just very quickly.
Well, let's do it again.
it
But
wasn't important.
So I have a buddy who introduced me to Warhammer at the ass into 8th, and from 8th through 9th he beat me. And he plays strictly Eldari. He plays Eldari or Drukhari, and I didn't take a single game off of him all 9th. And in 10th, I don't think I have not actually lost a game to him with Grey Knights because we teleport exactly where they don't want us to be. We have guns. Even our Stormbolters are really good into Eldari buddies. This detachment makes us even better. And so
Yeah.
I want to do a turn 2 table of this dude. And I want to make it clear. I love this man. He's into the competitive nature of this. I'm not being a jerk, but
Yeah.
I want to be like, you thought Grey Knights were cracked before. Oh, just you wait.
Especially a squad of purifiers. I've done that explanation playing an Eldar opponent. This unit here is bad. You do not want this unit near you. And they're like, I don't know. It can't be that bad. Okay, let's find out.
Yeah. All right. Dave, you were going to say something about worlds and judges.
Yeah. It was just an interesting interaction, and I'd love to get you guys' viewpoints on it. My opponent and I both agreed that it was complete nonsense and we wouldn't play it that way, despite a GW judge telling us it was so. So never forget, it's your game. You're allowed to agree with your opponent however you want. But we were playing Purge the Foe, and my opponent had the bottom of turn, and with a kill more, he would tie me. And he offered me a Mists on Drago, and I said, or Drago and Drago's Terminators. I said, well, when do they actually die? And a judge ruled it was at the end of the battle, and my opponent would score at the end of the round, so I could Mists and die in space quite happily. I was like, I'm not going to do that. That seems completely absurd. It's like, please just move your model back outside of 9 and we'll pretend that never happened. It was like, what a weird interaction.
Or miss away because you can still move a normal movement with miss.
Oh yeah, I could have. I was in a very narrow corridor. Didn't want to get shot. It was space or nothing.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know if I agree. Yeah, I don't know if I would have agreed with the judge's interpretation on that. But and when you're at an event, whatever this judge says is what the judge says. So
yeah, well, we were both like, yeah, cool, that's great. And then the judge left, and I was like, Spencer, we're not doing that, right? And he's like, no. I was like, sick.
Nice. I love to hear that. That's like, at the end of the day, it's a 3-hour game between two nerds moving their dollies.
Correct.
Yeah.
Figurines.
Sorry, my bad. They're action figures, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother calls them wee men. That's her vernacular that she uses. She often phrases it as such. Just so you know, your nephew's doing really well, and your sister's just started her new job and she has that new house and car. How's the wee men? Never speak to me again, woman. Never phone me again.
Nice.
Yeah, she lives in Scotland, thankfully.
On a speaker phone, so everybody hears your mom asking about those wee men.
How's the wee men going? The fucking wee men. Me.
So I guess we should probably close out in the next 20 minutes or so. But I do want to briefly touch on your guys' your WCW experience. So I know, Tommy, you ended up with a golden ticket because the people at the tournament you placed pretty high at already had them or something.
Yep. Yeah.
You got the sympathy ticket.
Yeah, so I came in, I think I came in like 3rd place or something like that, and there were 2 golden tickets up, and person in first already had one, so I got the slid in.
Nice. How about you, Dave?
Oh, I got mine's on pure nepotism, absolute nepotism.
So hobby?
No,
it was painting.
Close. I went to a teams tournament and they had 5 tickets to give away, and they chose to give 2 to first place, 2 to second place, and 1 to third place. Our team finished 3rd, and then the team collectively decided that I should have the ticket, which was very kind of them. But yeah, absolute nepotism, not earned in the fucking slightest. I think I made a meme of one of those guys squatting a big barbell. It was like, my body is a machine that turns the efforts of 8 people into 1 golden ticket.
Fantastic. So your wee men really helped you out there?
They did. They did. Yeah.
At that team's game, did you run 6 Dread Knights, 3 Libbies, and 1 Strike Squad?
Absolutely not.
Oh man.
No, we ran the WTC France list was what we ran at that time. 3 Dread Knights, 3 Strikes, 15 Terminators, 2 Libbies and Drago, which, by the way, if you're looking to get into Grey Knights, is more or less exactly 3 combat patrols.
Yeah.
And is an amazingly efficient list.
The Grey Knights Discord frequently is like, buy 3 combat patrols. Like, if you want 2,000 points right now, 3 combat patrols will get you. It gives you everything you need, and it's like a decent list. Yeah, pretty funny. Unlike all these other armies, where it's like, well, you only want half the combat patrol, but you should get it anyway. It's got some like cool models in it, and then you gotta find this 25th anniversary model on sale on eBay. Yeah. So we're actually being asked, like, is it an actual golden ticket? I mean, I assume it's not literal gold, but it's a ticket that is golden color. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, hey, look at
There you
that.
go.
There you go. There's your answer,
Very
Dame
nice.
Legion.
Very nice.
I
Where'd you
like
get
how
that
he.
frame? I just have mine like sitting on a shelf.
Oh, I just got it on Amazon. You can stick dollars in it, or if you want to stick something less valuable than a
Oh,
dollar in it, you can stick that golden ticket in it.
cool.
You
Yeah.
got it just collecting dust, man?
Yeah. All is dust.
All is dust. Wrong army.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah. Oh, Brian's defending you in chat. He says, for the record, Davey was our MVP at that team's tournament. He went 5-0, smashed T-Suns twice, Knights and Guards along the way. So you're
some
being
slight
modest, Dave. Yeah.
some slight hyperbole there.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I to kind of chat a bit more about WCW, and if you're interested in going and listening to this, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. It's a fantastic experience. I don't think there's any opportunity that you'll get outside of like War Masters in Belgium or Austria next year, to play 8 games at that level.
Yeah.
Like that was my experience. Was just I didn't have to have conversation like, oh, how does this work? They knew. I didn't have to tell. Like, if someone told me I'm screened, I didn't go check. I knew they knew. They were fine. Like it was, and
Yeah.
then we just got to play an actual game of I don't know what your experience with this, Tommy, was, but every time I looked at the board and realized my opponent had made a mistake, whether it was in screening, whether it was in positioning, whether it was in activation order, they would fix it. They would always fix their errors, and every win was like earned in blood. It was really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to mirror your set like what you were saying, like it's an incredible event, and if you can go, like I would do it because the games were probably some of the best games of Warhammer I've ever played, both in terms of just how difficult they were, but just how friendly everything was. I think it's a long event just in terms of days, but the days themselves are very comfortable because you're playing 2 games that you have 4 hours to play. And it gives you a lot more time to socialize and kind of have those conversations and like really get to know the person that you're playing against, and then have downtime to meet the people who attended. Like I met a handful of people, Dave included, at the event, right? Where it's like I would never have met this person in my local meta or even going to a GW Open because like I only played one person that was from the United States, and I played against people who had traveled there from South Korea, Vietnam, Australia. Like it was a pretty incredible experience in terms of like the caliber of the games, and then that arguably like the best part of Warhammer, which is like the social aspect of like meeting people and talking about your wee men.
Don't
Right.
don't let that catch on. Stop that.
Oh, it's too late. Too late.
Too gone. It's just too far
It's
gone,
done.
man.
I remember at one point
Your
speaking of the
mom's a
social side of it as
genius.
well. Yeah, don't let her hear that. Tommy was behind me playing against a friend of mine's, Ryan Pierce, and I got to turn and lament with Tommy in real time as both of his librarians gave themselves Kurt Cobain haircuts whilst he was doing containment. And I got to turn around and be like, I'm so fucking sorry, mate. That's awful. Poor
Yeah.
guy.
God,
That was
that
was
that game was probably like I don't blame dice, but like that was probably the worst rolling I think I've had in like a game because like my librarian rolled one like didn't roll a vortex of doom, just rolled 2 1s straight in a row. I survived the first one, but the second one he dies. And then Drago fails his charge out of deep strike. I then proceeded to like I lost one of the Terminators. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna move forward and get the little extra revive inches, and then proceeded to fail a 5-inch charge with a reroll from on Drago's unit, and it's
I
like,
remember that. Yeah, I was
and then like when the first DDA activation into him, I fail all 5 saves, and the Terminator squad disappears. It's just like, all right.
Ryan came up to me afterwards. I know you say you don't blame dice. Ryan came up to me afterwards and was like, "I've never seen dice like that in my life." So,
All
yeah,
right.
you
All
have
right.
some lamentations of your opponent as well. That's when you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's when you know it's bad. But it was for what it's worth, even though I got my face kicked off, I got some Canadian treats out of the deal, so came out ahead.
You don't have to be nice to Ryan. I'm not, so you're fine.
But no, like all the games were really good, and like I don't know if you had this experience too, but like every game for the most part really came down to like one or two things. Like it was like one charge didn't go off, or I spiked on this roll, so I took an advantage and never gave it up. Like there just wasn't like this, from turn two that you're going to win this game. It was down to the wire every single game, which was
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah, that's completely correct. You can almost pinpoint every moment in the games that you played where you're like, that is where the game was won or lost in a lot of these games. And that's not to imply that there's luck or swings it's just everyone is playing so precisely and so well that those tiny little millimeters of an edge that you get from something going advantageous for you is so defined. And what I found really interesting as well is you would get those advantages, be it you would roll hot on a charge, something would die. Your opponent was good enough to maintain composure and claw back that ground that you had taken from them, and that's why it was only often 5-10 point wins tops at best. Like it was, yeah, incredible,
That's
really
a
really fun.
that's like actually a really interesting piece of data that I wonder if like anybody's scraped, right? Like if you take the average, point win across like all games done in the last 90 days and compare it to like worlds,
Mm,
where it's like if the average is actually like 18 points, but like Worlds is 6,
yeah,
right? Like that really shows you that, and we all know that like those games that are 6 points or 3 points difference are a lot tighter games than the ones where like you blow them out by 40, 50 points. I mean, obviously that's how scoring works, but like what I mean, right? Like that's
yes,
like
yeah, of course.
you're fighting, you're clawing, you're like racking your brain, especially playing Grey Knights, right? Like you guys went to, like one like that first GT of 10th. The reason I brought my Death Watch is first of all our SAI or SIA strats weren't like nerfed yet, and the other one is I was like, I don't know if I can play Grey Knights for 6 games, 2 days, because like
yeah,
the movement phase just saps so much out of you. It's like brain drain, right? Or it's like, or my Death Watch, move up, pop strat, things die, I roll some dice, I go get a beer, I have a great time, right? So I'm curious about like that data, because that'd be very interesting to show you how elite, like that, because you guys are in the Super Bowl of 40K. Like everyone around you is a fucking like cold-eyed killer, in terms of playing the game,
Yeah.
obviously.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, I think if I look at my opponents over the duration of the weekend or the 4 days, it was just ridiculous. Like game one, I play against Scott Ketchum, who's like the USA Sisters coach, and then I have to play against Jack Harpster. That was great, loved that. Fuck's sake. Then I play against Jeremy Atkinson, who's the old co-captain of Team Canada. Then I play against Stefan, the Custodies player, old co-captain of Team Austria for WTC. Then finally, I play the Colombian WTC captain. Like, can I get a break? Can I just play someday? Some mammal with a head? Like, no, you're getting all these freaks back to back. It was, it's as you say, it is the Super Bowl. You don't get a game off. You don't get to just dick around and it goes well for you. Like, it's hard. It's very very difficult.
yeah. And there's something like um something almost cathartic about that. Like that like it's just a consistent level across all the games, and like um it it was kind of wild because like ended the first day, 2 wins, 2 losses, and then you look at like who's in that same bracket as you. It's like, oh, like looks like I'm ahead of like the #1 ITC person who went 1-3 today. Like it's just like it's a crazy Shark Tank in terms of the level of skill there, but it's also like I think it's the peak of the way Warhammer should be played. Like every game I had like people were cool about take backs. That everyone was like really good about explaining and playing by intent, but not doing the play by intent where it's like I intended to not ever make a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Which some people do, where it's like, you know, be like, well, I intended to like not make this game breaking mistake, but like, well, did you like so it's
Yeah.
a lot more upfront communication,
Like
a lot of really good stuff. So
I intended to win this game, not
yeah,
lose
exactly,
this
yeah,
I
game.
intended to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad.
Sorry.
The chap Spencer I played to go like he set up this entire movement phase around preventing me from getting a miss. He left himself an exact gap to fall back into, and about 2 moves before he was due to fall back, he moved into that space with a unit and couldn't fall back into that space anymore. And now he had to grant me a miss. And so we started measuring, trying to find him a miss. I'm helping, you know, ultimately he was like, no, like I fucked up, missed. It's like, dude, that's like people were so accepting of the fact that, like, as Tommy says,
Yeah.
I intend to play this way, but if I make a mistake, I've made a mistake. That's on me. You get to play this game as well, right? And yeah, it was just a complete breath of fresh air. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Worlds.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Tommy was kind of giving us a play-by-play on my Discord, which was neat. And like at one point he's like, "Man, I'm 2-6." I think you were 2-4 at the
yeah.
I think you were 2-4 at the time. And I'm like, "Man, like how are you feeling? That's gotta be a bummer." And he's like, "No, man, those games were all fucking great." He's like, they were all tight, they were close, you know, like it could have gone either way, like, you know, one better die roll a little earlier in the last turn and things would have, you know, like just that's really cool. Like
Two of my games were won by a single point.
That's insane.
Like, then we're having a completely different discussion because it's just it was insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no tighter game, obviously, than a 1-point game. That's fucking wild.
How did you feel, Tommy, when you got your first like win?
It felt.
Because I was
it
like,
felt
I'm
great.
free. I was like, I'm free, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not 0-8. I don't have to worry about going 0-8.
100%. I was the exact same. I was like, if I have to go on like mine and Brian's podcast, having gone 0-8 and be like, and I had the best time, like I'm gonna be so sad about it. So yeah, getting that first win felt amazing.
Yeah, it felt like a win at an RTT or something like that, where you're just like, like you're not pulling down an event, but it's like, it's like did it.
Job done.
So for anybody listening, Tommy went 2-6 and Dave went 4-4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Dave, you were how many Grey Knight players were there total? Only like 4 or 5, right?
I believe there was 8.
Okay.
There was actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 7.
Okay.
And yeah, I finished 3rd. I was also the best Grey Knights player from Scotland. Much, but, you know.
Nice. Yeah. I think you were the only player from Scotland, right?
That is correct.
So you were the best player from Scotland, and the best in faction of all factions from Scotland.
It does be that easy.
Yeah.
I actually went 1-1 every single day, which was a great way to maintain my mental health. Let me tell you that.
Oh, start the day on a win and then lose up. Yeah.
I went 1-0-0-1 and then 1-0-1-0-1. Like it was this kind of binary. Like, oh no.
What's that? Well, it's 8, right? That's 8 bits. So what's that actually say in binary?
I'm gonna find it out at some point. But but no, this was the other part of this is this was a list I conceived like at about 2 a.m, 24 hours after list submission had closed because they left it open for too long. And I played one test game of it and was like, this list is fucking terrible. And I'd already submitted it. And I went, I have to change it. And I ran to BCP and they'd locked lists. And I was like, oh shit. So it was it was not the first list that I was thinking of running, but it was certainly the list that we took. But I was also lucky enough to play test games, Tommy, into the PETA Cup Sisters list before going to this event. And I got hammered with my Dread Knights. I was like, I'm not taking Dread Knights. And so the goal was like, if we get a winnable game, we must put ourselves in a position to win it. And that's why I took the list I did. I ended up pairing into PETA Cup Sisters twice and beat them twice. And it's like, okay, clearly we made a good decision here. We got kind of lucky on that front. Because if I take Dreads, they just get absolutely smoked by Exos, and you're not saving them all. You're not saving one, to be honest.
Yeah, no. I think if if I could do it again, I probably would do like a double Terminator brick with 3 Nemesis Dread Knights. I think it just has a lot of staying power and a lot of like really good. It plays really well on GW terrain, right? So.
Well, I only play WTC in my local meta, so game 1 of WCW was my 3rd game on GW terrain. So I was like on the plane.
Oh man, you much feel like it's Planet Bowling Ball, huh?
Oh, it is. I was on the plane, like drawing the deployment zones on the map and like drawing lines of sight. Okay, can't stand here. Okay, can't stand here. Like trying to find all those little like advantageous positions where I could stand. There's not many, by the way.
Yeah.
I wish I still had my notes. There's like notes in the corner that say, "Do not fucking go here."
Yeah,
so,
I did go there and got shot.
So yeah, I got to start closing down the stream, but I do want to ask you one last question, Dave. The biggest tech piece about your list that really surprised me is you brought Voldus.
Yeah.
So you went to Warhammer World. You brought Voldus. Can you just give us a little 2 or 3 minute spiel about Voldus, and did he let you down or what?
Oh, Voldus, my Voldus. No, so first of all, start the timer if you want, by the way. First of all, he's one of my finest painted miniatures. I love him. Secondly, he was in my first ever grenades list. He was in it. The -1 to hit is something people don't factor in. And when I talked earlier about playing into Sisters, making Sisters hit on 4s is very scary. With me having a 10-man Terminator, a 10-man Paladin, and a 5-man Terminator, his, ability was rotational. So in the game against Spencer, the AdMech player that I ended up winning, him standing on a point and just sitting there and him not being able to hit me because he's hitting me on 5s won me that game. The Drago squad terraforming against PETA Cup Sisters, you're hitting me on 4s, often 5s, won me that game. The game he went into my Paladin list, that Paladin unit is -1 to hit, it's -1 to wound. He's strength 10, damage 3. Kind of scary for Terminators to go into as well. He just was this really annoying little piece that I just had a lot of variability and fun with putting him into all these different situations. And yeah, I think when I look at it, he was a piece that I don't think anyone else ran. And he, obviously there's a lot of things that happen in dice and variability. He won me 2 games and, 25% success rate for the big man. I'll take that.
Pretty good. He's also one of my finest painted minis. Actually, he isn't anymore. My skill has gotten way better, but he's the first mini I painted that I actually felt really good about painting. Good. So I kind of don't want to repaint him, even though compared to like my army now, he looks like a melted like candle. So I'm gonna start closing this down. I've had 2 liters of water, a gimlet, and a cup of tea. So the lease on that's expiring. And then I also have to go assist the wife with the baby. So I'm going to start closing stuff down. Thank you both of you for joining me. This was hilariously fun. Awesome to get all your guys' insights. We should do this again. Even if it's just a state of the game or like whatever, but this was a blast. Do you guys have anything that you want to plug? We'll start with Tommy.
If you're in the Pacific Northwest, we're going to be doing Cascade Clash, I believe in March, beginning of March. So keep an eye out for that on BCP. Good event. So, yeah.
Dave, you want to plug your team or any
Sure,
events?
yeah, of course. If you have enjoyed listening to my drivel and want to punish yourself further, myself and Brian, who's in the chat, run a podcast called The Other Guys, invented largely because we didn't come first at events and we didn't come last. We were just the other guys. And we talk about events and all the kind of nonsense that occurs as a result of them. So if you want to listen to that, we're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts and the internet. I think we're just on the internet. So
Just the whole internet.
it's a series of tubes, I'm led to believe.
That's what I was told. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. There are links to all the various faction discords down below, including mine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that jazz, and don't forget